I hate to think that someone is not using those three steps, the truth motivator, the verification, more thorough interviews, because they had a question, well, what about this? There are a lot of what abouts. I'm actually writing a book right now. I don't know if it's going to be an e-guide or a full book, but it just has to do with those three things and the concerns people have had, and if not articulated, then they wouldn't use those.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. This is your host Anushka at peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives more than 400,000 visitors a year, and we also publish several interviews with well-known names globally every month. We have with us today Dr. Brad Smart. Dr. Brad is the founder and CEO of Top Grading, a consulting and software company dedicated to helping companies of all sizes, big and small, improve their performance and profits by hiring high performers. Brad has conducted over 6,500 in-depth interviews with executives and is frequently acknowledged as the world's foremost expert on hiring. He is also the author of Top Grading, the proven hiring and promoting method that turbocharges company performance, The Smart Interviewer, Tools and Techniques for Hiring the Best, and co-author of Top Grading for Sales, World-Class Methods to Interview, Hire, and Coach Top Sales Representatives with Greg Alexander, and Smart Parenting, How to Raise Happy, Can-Do Kids with Dr. Kate Mercer. I'm so happy and honored to have someone of his stature today on our interview series. Welcome, Brad. We're thrilled to have you.
Well, thank you, Anushka, for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Pleasure is absolutely ours. Thank you so much for just making the time to talk to us. So, Brad, just diving right deep in the interview, the first question I really had for you was, can you tell us a little about Top Grading Inc. and your consulting and software company, and what exactly has your journey been like?
The journey in Top Grading has been exciting overall, but it did not have a really happy beginning. Right? I was a freshman in college. Psychology was interesting, business was a little boring, but I wanted to be in business, and then heard there were management psychologists who interview candidates for executive positions, trying to find the high performers for companies. So I just went through Yellow Pages. I found one that helped get me summer jobs. That was cool, all right? And they said back then, it's not necessary now, back then to get a PhD in psychology. I did that, went to work for them. And gee, after they've been nice for 5 or 6 years getting me jobs, a thought occurred to me that should have occurred a lot earlier. And so I asked on my first day, new kid, I'm in my 20s, all right, how good are we at what we do? Well, what do you mean? I mean, like what percent of the people we interview and recommend for hire turn out to be not just okay or even good performers, but true high performers, A players? Well, I don't know. Well, how about this? Why don't I go around? I need to meet clients anyway, and I'll ask them. So I did that in the next month, and it came back to about 1/3 of the people we interviewed and recommended, they hired, turned out to be high performers. Wow. And why would they pay us to do those interviews? Because they said on our own, only about 20 or 25% of the people we've hired turn out to be high performers. So it's worth it to pay your fees. Okay, but I remember going home, talking to my wife and saying, I'm not sure this is the right profession for me. If I were a medical doctor, I wouldn't like it if 2/3 of my patients left every day in body bags, which is kind of an outrageous way to say it. So I had gotten jobs that they had gotten me actually in human resources departments and different things. And I had heard about problems in hiring and just assumed that the firm I went to work for had solved those problems, and they hadn't. So that was my mission. What are the main problems in hiring and what are the solutions? And in this video, I guess the good news is we discovered those and the solutions work, and they can tell your viewers what they are, and they can use them today at no cost and will improve their hiring. So just flashing forward, in the 1980s, there was a case study like no other case study on talent, right? Jack Welch was chairman and CEO of General Electric. In the 1980s, he was frustrated. He wanted to hire A players, wanted to hire A players, wanted to hire A players, yet 3/4 turned out to be not A players. So one of his HR people in my book in London or someplace met him. And so in the late 80s, we rolled out top grading. We first started as professional services. I and several other professionals worked with the top 150 executives at GE, interviewing candidates for hire and promotion. Okay, and that went very well. The very, very thorough process. So Jack said, train us. Us? 30,000 managers, right? That is Zoom call initiative. I've got 30,000 managers on, but Zoom wasn't around back then. So I trained 100 human resources professionals who trained thousands and thousands of others. They went from 25% to over 80% high performers hired. And picture this, the value, the stock price, and the value, the market capitalization of GE in the 1980s went from 19 to $39 billion. Well, that was average. That was average for a Fortune 500 company, an increment of about $2 billion a year. With top grading in the 1990s, they went up to $570 billion, the most valuable company in the world. So that's like, what, over $50 billion a year in growth in market cap. Anyway, everybody heard about this. Everybody wanted to drink the Kool-Aid. And so we continue to this day, interviewing candidates for senior positions where the cost of a mishire is really bad. But I love training people, all right? We have virtual workshops that we're doing monthly. And it all comes down to a few things, just a few things. I'll mention what they are that your viewers can start doing today. Okay, problem solution. The biggest problem in hiring is human nature, that we all want to put our best foot forward, okay? So we create resumes that read much like our Facebook profile, LinkedIn profile. All right, they kind of highlight the pluses, which is, okay, so that's perfectly normal and human. Okay, there's a second fact that messes with hiring process, and that is most companies in most countries prohibit their managers from taking reference calls. They're afraid of liability. If our managers take reference calls and they say anything negative about an old Charlie and then he files a lawsuit, then it's just too much of a hassle. All right, so people know this. Anyone, just Google how to get a job, all right, how to create a resume, how to beat the tests, including intelligence. You can get the answers online, right? And there's a sense in all that it's just perfectly okay to play the game to get a job. So, saying it crudely, candidates for hire can fudge the resume and interviews and get away with it. Whoa. I had 3 people working for me who worked for a career builder in the background check area. And they said their experience is that 40% of resumes contain significant non-truths. It's a little harsh to say lies, but they claim to go to a university they didn't attend, claim to have a license they didn't have, they omitted a job they were fired from, and so forth. That's what all of us in the hiring world have been faced with forever, right? And so here are the solutions. And I can't claim any creativity on this, but fortunately, in the first few months of my professional career, I interviewed someone, did an excellent job of hiring. I did an excellent job of hiring in different positions. And what's your secret? He says, and this is it, drum roll. I just inform all candidates for hire that a final step in hiring, when an offer's on the table, the final step in hiring is for them to arrange reference calls with the managers they've reported to. And if it's a management job, maybe some direct reports, maybe some peers as well. They arrange it, no phone tag. Wow. So what happens there? About half the candidates drop out. they wouldn't want their managers telling you about them for fear that they'd say some negative things. And frankly, they know that they're not going to be able to get their managers to talk anyway. That saves HR time, which saves money, okay? So at least people who are staying in, roughly half, are sharp and pretty honest. They're transparent. Okay, that's step one. Step three, we'll go to the end. No matter what your hiring methods are, whether you use tests that aren't that great or you're using technology that's turned out to be disappointing, whatever you do, don't hire a person without following through on that. We call it the truth motivator, right? In other words, do ask the candidate, all candidates, to arrange the calls with people you want to talk with. Almost all of it's the managers they've reported to, in the past decade, all right? And the good news is, decades later, millions of high performers have arranged those calls. So, wow, the problems in hiring, like lack of transparency from candidates, problem solved, all right? Step two in there is to conduct thorough interviews. Since you have honest candidates wanting to talk about themselves, and A players love to talk about themselves, right? They love that walk down memory lane, okay? You find out everything about their career. I'll talk more about that later. But then before you actually hire them, you're going to get the best verification imaginable. Right now, yeah, everybody asks for references, but they tend to be friends of the candidates, and you don't really get anything of substance. But since the candidates arrange for those reference calls with their managers and others, wow, there's no phone tag, and you get the straight scoop. After millions of those calls being done, we've heard a million times probably, that the hiring manager, okay, who's doing those calls, say they talk with the managers of the candidates, and the managers of the candidates will say, I'm not going to tell you anything I haven't told the candidate. There is no risk of lawsuits. For all my top grading books, Seyfarth Shaw, a global employment law firm, has vetted top grading. Top grading's never been sued about anything, okay, nothing. And it's a very fair, unbiased process, and it's tight. So it's thorough, it's honest, okay? It has the best verification. So I just told all your viewers, you use that truth motivator. Candidates, a final step in hiring is for you to arrange calls with managers you've reported to. And again, that's probably when an offer is on the table, okay? Then do those interviews. Yeah, that's step three. Step two is interviews, and this is to do a really, really good job. That's why we do virtual workshops and so forth. But I'll be telling your viewers about an app we have, kind of hot off the presses, that does all these things automatically, but I'll save that for a little bit later. So here we are today. We do workshops, we do interviews, and the vision is just to let as many people in the world know that if you just do those few things, you'll probably double your success hiring high performers. That assumes you want to hire high performers. And we've done enough surveys over the decades to know that if your viewers are human resources and recruiters and entrepreneurs and CEOs, yes, all of them would prefer to hire high performers, A players, people you would enthusiastically rehire as opposed to all others. I got two other quick things on that, Anushka, is the 2020 Conference Board report on their survey says the number one concern C-suite executives, the CEO and all the executives reporting to the CEO, which of course includes Chief Human Resources Officer. Number one concern is talent, translation, not enough high performers hired. What, Brad? What are you talking about? Didn't something like a pandemic come up? No, actually did the survey last November, right? So the 2020 survey, and had they done it in 2020 after, February or March or so forth, I'm sure pandemic would be the number one concern. So I'll just say that's one of the top concerns. The other quick point is, and then but you get back to your questions, is American Productivity and Quality Center, APQC, did a 2.5-year study on quality of hire. And a lot of famous companies participated. They paid $20,000 to participate in their best practices. And anyone can go to APQC and pay $500 and get that report. And you'll see a lot of cool things all the companies have done. When it comes to quality of hire, only 3 top grading companies were highlighted. Okay, I think there's a message there. So we think we've solved the problems, and we want people to understand how to take those solutions and hire better right away. And later, if they want to get more, buy books or go to a virtual workshop or something, they can do that. But I'd love to hear from anyone who's watching this that, yeah, I tried these. Thank you. It's working. I'm better. So it's not just the companies do better. And if your viewers can go to topgradingcasestudies.com and see something no other hiring approach has. It's dozens and dozens and dozens of named case studies. Other companies say, well, we can't identify who our clients are. That would be proprietary. Bull, right? All the CEOs, heads of human resource, names of the companies, they want to advertise essentially that they're top grading companies because it attracts more A players. The average improvement in hiring high performers at all levels of the company, that's from CE down to clerks, is from 26%, okay, to 85%, 26 to 85%. All right. So no other company has even one case study like that. That's why we're in the business. That's why I'm doing this podcast. I want people to know you can taste the Kool-Aid there yourself today just by doing a couple things. All right. And you'll start experiencing the favorable results. You'll interview fewer people, better people, and hire a higher percentage of high performers. Promise.
That's great. That's wonderful. I mean, I'm just so enamored. I'm blown with everything that you have to say about top grading. Firstly, congratulations on the great work that you're doing with top grading and also on the success of your books. It's phenomenal, absolutely. And it's so great to actually see your passion and zest and the deep research that you have done and the great experience and the training, the passion for training individuals and organizations to success that you have. It's great, Brad.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
We want to see that expanded, right? Yeah. So not a cure for cancer, but it's a contribution. And now, if the truth be told, now you've been so complimentary, thank you. Now I've got to tell you something kind of negative about me, all right? I was hired several years ago to meet with just the chief human resources officers of just the largest 100 companies in the world, a global 100. Wow, this is cool. And I know about a dozen of the CHROs who are being there, and they're going to say nice things about top grading. And started the workshop asking what percent of the people you hire turn out to be high performers. 20% for the whole group. That included 12 top graders. So I separated the top graders, went to the whiteboard, put all their numbers down. They averaged 80% success hiring high performers. Just the opposite of the whole group. So the top graders, who interestingly were sitting around 2 tables, it wasn't organized that way. They just, for obvious reasons, were sitting with people who had similar sort of values. Anyway, they tend to be critical of the non-top graders, who then they became critical of Brad in 2 ways, and they were absolutely correct. They said, 1, you're invisible. You don't have a bunch of people coming around knocking on the doors explaining all this stuff. Okay, we're changing that, and that's one of the reasons we're doing the actually marketing and putting sales forces together and so forth. And second was, and this hurt a little bit, your technology is not up to snuff. It's fair, and if you want to work with Fortune 500 companies, global 100 companies, you have to have world-class technology. And I thought I was smarter than I was and am. I know how to do this and put it together, and it wasted 5 or 6 years, frankly. I don't know if you see Shark Tank. You're familiar with it? Okay. And that woke me up a couple of years ago. Someone came into Shark Tank with an app, okay, on an iPhone, and Mark Cuban interrupted and said, "Before you say anything, are you a techie?" "No." "Do you have a full-time techie?" "No." "Turn around, leave, because from the time you walked into the door to right now, 20 or 30 changes have taken place in the HR technology world." Okay. So I hired one. All right. And he's been great. And I'm almost daily amazed at how naive and stupid I was not doing this sooner. So probably we're catching up basically. So that was the wake up call for me. And I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I needed that wake up call, but that's what really happened.
That's great. It's wonderful to see how you're constantly learning something in your journey, and you've just had like a bag load of experiences to share with people. And we're just so delighted you can, just summarize all of this for an answer, like in our interview. That is just great.
Thank you.
So going on to the next question, Brad, you've written several books on diverse topics, and it's just incredible. And one of them really talks about being the smart interviewer. And I'm really intrigued with this concept. So how much do you think has technology exclusively just helped in hiring, the best talent? And do you also believe it removes some kind of subconscious human bias?
Yes. Yeah. Well, a couple things on that. I'm going to be offering all your viewers a free trial for 2 months for an app, maybe like what that guy on Shark Tank is going to come up with. It does include an interview. It's just the phone screen. So this app incorporates all those solutions. The instructions say, final step in hiring, candidate, you're going to have to arrange reference calls. The recommendation, obviously, is the company to do that. And in between, you can push a button and out pops a phone screen interview guide. Okay, the most important part of top grading, and we're hoping people will get intrigued, their hiring will be better, and they'll want to master something that's very difficult, and that is the top grading interview is a chronological interview, covers all of education, every job. And it's time consuming, but if you double or triple your percent high performers hired, you save a ton of time. So this is where the thoroughness comes in. Okay. Now, with respect to the technology, I heard recently someone who should really know, because he goes to all the HR technology conferences, there are now 50,000 apps in the HR technology space. And a lot of them are cool, and they do some cool things, but there's been, bottom line, most of them don't work very well at all. Frankly, the way a lot of tests don't work at all. For one thing, people can go online and find the answers to all the tests. There are some real issues with technology and bias. And I'm very happy to say that in all the books on hiring that I've published, that I've mentioned, that the global employment law firm has said top grading is super clean on this. EEOC loves it. We've never had any EEOC suits and so forth, because it's fact-based. Okay, and it's fact-based because candidates are being asked, and the verification is there, because clients actually talk to the managers and peers, and direct reports of people for high-level jobs. So it's just loaded with truth. So that is the biggest issue in hiring, is all those candidates out there, and there are zillions now with this pandemic. People watching this are just deluged with resumes, and they know people are putting their best foot forward. So how do you screen them? So they do so many dozens of phone screen interviews, but still not getting the truth. Then they do whatever they do back at the office. Now it's mostly virtual. It might be tests and more interviews and so forth, and they hire people. And for those with a standard of hiring high performers, 3 out of 4 fall short. So already there are clinical psychologists doing therapy, and a robot is doing the questioning, and based on some of the answers leads to the next question and so forth. And some of the research is showing they're not doing too badly, maybe better than some of the humans. When it comes to hiring high performers, there's so much data that's necessary that I don't think anything is probably going to happen very soon. It's here to stay. And remember SHRM, every day they have articles on artificial intelligence, this and that, and so forth. Yeah, keep trying, and I think it'll be helpful. And there are ways that we see technology being important, hence our new app. And after our session, going into what the status is of that particular apps. So we're all for it when it can be proven to be effective, and it really has to be unbiased. Top grading interview, incorporating all the questions that go into that top grading interview about what people did and how they did and how they liked it, high points and low points and their values, and ask about their strengths and weaker points. They're being honest, and they talk about those things. It makes it a whole lot easier, frankly, for minorities and protected groups, women, to compete with men, because they can show that they can really do it. All right. A lot of the canned interviews that our competitors have, we have 6 competencies, and there are 8 questions about each one of these competencies. The interviewers have to ask exactly those questions, and so forth. It's too constraining if you're interested in finding people who are maybe going to be super high performers who are in one of those protected groups. So we're happy that the change is moving in that direction.
That's great, Brad. So talking more flexibility and being responding to every individual hire's demands, rather than having like a one-size-fit-all solution.
Yeah, absolutely. My wife happened to do some volunteer work in what was the highest crime rate portion of the world, Cabrini Green in Chicago, and identified some leaders from Cabrini Green, highest crime rate in the world, right? And it's all Black, and kept in touch with a bunch of these people, young women, young men, that were in gangs, who 10 years later are really good contributors to society. They're confined with a lot of the canned questions. How would this come out? It'd be pretty hard. Yeah.
Great. That's really some wonderful, incredible work that you're doing there. And thank you so much for offering all our audience the 2-week the free trial for your app. I'm sure. I would honestly love to try it. So I'm sure our audience are really going to do it as well.
I'll tell you just a little more about it. Here it is. What did you show me? Okay. In order to be able to conduct that long top grading interview, which might be 4 hours for a mid-manager, might be 45 minutes for a sales rep, 20 minutes for a cashier at Kroger. Okay, but it's okay. All right. Need the basic information going into that. So that requires candidates to fill out a career history. It's like an application form. The career history form has, there's more to it though, because the instructions all say, final step in hiring, you're going to have to arrange reference calls. So be totally transparent. And it asks some questions about how bosses would rate them. Okay, knowing that that's going to be finally something that's going to be confirmed or disconfirmed. So that full career history form takes time to fill out. And our top grading clients for years have said, Brad, we'd love to be able to cut down those massive resumes by having all candidates fill out that career history form, but if someone has 10 years of experience, it'll take them an hour and a half. Ugh. So we have to go through all these resumes, and then we have to go through all these phone screen interviews. At that point, we say, oh, you want to move forward? Great, we want to move forward too. Fill out this form, and they always do it. What this innovation is going to sound really simple. It's a 2-job career history form. So it's the pre-screen snapshot, and I understand your viewers are going to be able to see prescreensnapshot.com where they can sign up for that free trial. Okay, it eliminates a lot of those hassles. All right, so all happening before you actually talk to people, but does include an interview guide for a phone screen. So here's how it works. All right. So candidates are automatically sent an email. Obviously, that can be tailored, saying, thank you for applying for sales rep job at Acme Corporation. We're interested in continuing the hiring process and like you to complete a short questionnaire providing information just about your most recent 2 jobs. Link, they fill out, takes about 7 or 8 minutes. All right. That scares away about half clients. And so we want this free trial long enough so that your viewers know, I don't really need to see those 50%. They'll absolutely know that is the case. All right. So the people now where they're going to see, they're interested in the resumes and they have the information. And what's this information? Yeah, it's application information. I know you can't really see it. Green is good. See those green lines down there? All right. These tell the truth here. It's boss ratings, managerial ratings, and we've heard from clients for decades that those estimates, when you ask candidates to tell you how their managers would rate them, they're not going to lie. They're not going to inflate. And what you want to see, if you want to hire A players, what you want to see is candidates saying, when you talk to my managers, these 2 managers, current manager and one before that, they'll rate me excellent or very good. Excellent, very good, on a scale of excellent, very good, good, fair, poor. Good is not good enough. If you want to hire high performers, you really want to interview someone who's had 6 managers, all of whom would rate the candidate good, definitely not very good, and definitely not excellent. So this is really cool. Then, as I said before, say you started with 50 resumes, now you have 25, and you pick out, 4 or 5 maybe, and 4 or 5 that really look good, and you call them, and it's a suggested interview guide, and you can put in your own questions, but basically it goes into detail about those 2 jobs, a little bit about other jobs, and then you move ahead. So all of this has taken place. They're filling out the questionnaire, you're sorting through the resumes and the pre-screen snapshots. That's what this is. Before you even talk to people, then you have a short conversation. So that's not all there is to top grading or hiring anywhere. It doesn't make any difference at this point. Do whatever you're doing from a hiring standpoint, but don't hire the person until they arrange for those reference calls. So that's what it's all about. You go pre-screen snapshot, try try it. The one thing we ask is to give us some feedback. We've gotten feedback from all sorts of different sources. And just to put this in perspective a little more, the full career what we call top grading snapshot, has been around for 10 years. Clients have it, but they have a license, you know, they've all been trained, and the interviewers do the full interviewers. I'm looking over at my credentials. I could show you the full one. You don't need to mess with that now. Make it easy on yourself. You can experience solutions of the 3 problems with very little effort. Now we have the training, okay, a video that we have, and for tech savvy people, that's probably going to be sufficient. To begin with, though, we're gonna ask that people get trained by Katie, who's trained 1 million people. All right, there'll probably be several companies at the same time. So an administrator, just an administrator, will go through the training with Katie, and they just take over from there. You get the resumes in, you send out the emails, you look at the pre-screen snapshots, and so forth. So that's it, kind of in a nutshell. Even though this is just the 2-job version of that longer full career history, it's taken a couple of years to make that modification. You think it would be very simple. Let's do it next week. No, it's taken long to make sure everything is very user friendly and it works. Right?
Right, that's great. And it's great to see. I'm sure the top grading snapshot is really here to stay. And it's really going to be incorporated by more organizations around the world, especially in the future of work. It's great how you actually made the process so simple and smoother and more user-friendly. So that's great, Brad.
Yeah. Hope so. Fingers crossed. Hope it works for everybody. Right?
Yeah. So going on to the next question, you know, many outside recruiters are not really aware of a company's real value system and their goals, and that kind of leads to lazy hiring. And do you think there's kind of like a solution for this? And if yes, what is it?
The solution is top grading. Wrote a blog where we published topgrading.com in the next few weeks. First of all, on recruiters. And I say in there, for all the top grading books, 3 different versions, I've asked 200 CEOs and heads of human resources, what % of the time when you use an executive search firm, remember, they're paid regardless of whether they find someone, all right? And a lot of times $100,000 plus. So they're the top. You know the names, right? The same names have been around for many years. What % of the time do you feel you got your money's worth? I won't put you on the spot, Anushka, but it's 20%. Well, one book was 19%, one book was 20%, one book was 21%. And why? Well, they do chronological interviews. They go through a person's background, their education, and all their jobs. And they talk about lazy hiring, Anushka. They don't ask about failures or mistakes or areas for improvement, except in a game playing way. And the heads of the senior partners in all those firms have told me, Brad, if we use top grading and we do these thorough interviews and, and don't just ask about successes and accomplishments and high points and strengths, but we ask for failures and mistakes. Oh, if we ask for failures and mistakes, they tell us go find better candidates. It's a bit of a risk. The most successful executive search consultants I know are top graders. They're highly trusted because they don't miss anything. The typical executive search firm is accused by a lot of people in the field as providing whitewash reports. Okay, not right. Now you go down the hierarchy to contingency recruiters. What my article suggests is because contingency recruiters are only paid if you hire someone. And too often companies will announce, we're looking for a sales rep job and there are 5 recruiters out there and they're gonna shove resumes at you all day today, or they might lose out. The recommendation is to consider an exclusive. All right, ask around, get referrals, who you think is good in this field, and give them exclusive. So you're not paying them, okay, just to throw resumes at you, but they're expected to do interviews and require of all recruiters, whether executive search firms or contingency recruiters or staffing companies who might be hiring 500 people to work in the Philippines, and so forth. use the truth motivator. Okay, tell them, final step in hiring, want to talk to your managers, and you arrange the calls. Now, how does that work? Like at a grocery company, there's a service manager walking around, there are 500 people in the stores, and she'll maybe have a 5-minute conversation with one or two of the people, a cashier or someone on the floor as a stocker as his work. It will make any difference at that level? Yes. In the third edition of Top Grading, one of the case studies, and you can get this too at topgrading.com. Top Grading is used by a division of called Mariano's, and hired A-player cashiers and stockers and salespeople on the floor. I mean, all the difference in the world. This happened to be in Chicago, and I've known Bob Mariano for a third of a century. And the media were all over this. You walk into Mariano's, someone who's so customer service oriented, they'll help you. And the sales shot up at the end of that story. Unfortunately, it was some of these methods were canceled by that firm. That's too bad. But that I'm answering one of your questions, I guess, prematurely. Is just working big companies? That's one of the myths of Top Grading. No, most of our clients are small and mid-sized. All right. And there are dozens of case studies, and the message of just looking through the master chart at topgradingcasestudies.com, you don't have to read every one. You click on one, you can read a long case study. But the thing is, they're huge companies, they're startups, they're high tech, they're everywhere. It's everywhere. It's universal. Anyone who's hiring someone, if you're just going to hire one person in it, you got to say you're going to try yourself. Right? Use it. Yes. Just to get a little bit more sophisticated about it, different cultures, some of the wording will be different, and the interview guides and so forth, where maybe teamwork is emphasized more than it is, in the U.S., for example. But all those, that can be dealt with. So yes, there, all size companies.
That's wonderful. I'd love to try it. And I'm sure many of my other colleagues and the audience as well would love to really try their hands on this. So that's great, Brad. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know, Anushka, I actually about the value, but I got off on laziness and was accusing, not all, there's some outstanding recruiters in all those categories, being lazy. It's not really being lazy. They're not asking for any, even areas for improvement. We all have areas for improvement. Well, you and I don't, but most people do, right? Anushka, and that's the reality of it. So it's not so much laziness, but sure, values and Top Grading is perfect for figuring if a person will work in this company with the value system as it exists, or with a lot of companies wanting to change some of their values, be more diverse and so forth. Will it fit there? Because for every job, why did you take that job? All right, that have something to do with the value system, what they did, how they did, how they liked it, high points, low points, how their boss would rate them and so forth. Why did you leave? A lot of times it has something to do with the value system. And if a person has had 6 or 7 jobs, you get 6 or 7 looks inside their value system, and will have a really good feel for whether it will work. And then after all that, and doing the reference calls, why not? Explain what your company is like, what the job is like. That's what we suggest. Explain the company, the job, the value system in your company, and ask, do you think this person would fit well in this company? So yeah, value system is really important. They really should. And I would recommend them. I just gave one point on that. When Larry Bossidy was chairman of Honeywell, he had 44 executive search firms. He told all 44, I'm going to cut it back to 4, and you're going to have to use Top Grading. Okay? And it worked, sort of. Here's where it worked. I'm in the Phoenix area, and there was an big, huge aerospace plant here. And full-time, I remember him, I remember his name and his company. He was one of the top, 7 or 8 companies. Was full-time there, doing Top Grading interviews, frequently with the hiring manager. Absolutely the right way to go. but senior partners in that firm said, no, we wouldn't use that at the executive level because our clients would say, find better people. If we list 5 or 6 shortcomings or areas for improvement, top graders recognize that we all have areas for improvement. And if they're terrible ones, then the person's not going to be able to perform because of it. Of course, they're not being recommended. But if the recommendation is, yes, this is an A-player candidate, here are some things you should know. All right. And like the person, mid-career person takes on too many projects, feeling that anytime the boss asks me to do something, I do it. And then they sort of go crazy. And frankly, sometimes there are more mistakes because of that. And you ask that and you find a little later in their career that they've solved that problem. They're now confident enough, they'll push back and say, okay, if I take that job on, then I'm going to have to sacrifice this. Yeah, okay, and that's fairly typical for successful senior executives. They do learn how to push back. If you hadn't asked those questions, you would not have known that. One more along those lines, from India, all right, A player, and came to the U.S. with his parents and so forth, who said, you're going to have to work harder, okay, because you're not born here, you're born there, and push harder for results. And he had gotten to super results over the years. But I know this company, you know this company well. It's for the top marketing job. And what I suggested, and he met with the CEO and they did it and it worked, was don't go to these different places where it's not franchise, but sort of like that. Some of these are really successful people. They have their private jets and so forth, and they've been doing well. They're not going to like it if anyone comes to the United States, no matter where they're from or what they look like, and tell them, here's the way you ought to do it, right? So maintain his cool. This is for the first time, okay? But that's because he admitted to me that it's still an issue. He still has this instinct to push hard, all right? And his justification is because most people are not A players in companies, and sometimes you have to push the non-A players to get things done. All that's true, but win friends and influence people. Go around the world and listen, and then go back and suggest some things that work perfectly. So back to the recruiters, and the top grading approach is more thorough and helps with the value system and to identify people. And that's the point I made to all these partners of the firms who had been working with Honeywell. You train your clients to trust you by being open and honest and thorough with them, not by having whitewash reports and explaining your report. This is an area for improvement. Here's a solution. Go around the world, listen. Okay. None of them have done that. None of them have done that, even though they appointed people to go in all these different plants for Honeywell. And after Larry retired, somehow kind of just went away. So I hope that's helpful to some of your viewers here.
Absolutely. I really agree and completely agree with all your points on listening, on, just everything that you encompassed in this answer. And I really appreciate it. I love the anecdotes that you just provided us. Really going to be helpful for our viewers. So and obviously the organizational values and culture really matters, and that's really the crux of the business and how leaders really treat their employees. Completely agree with you.
Yeah, I agree. We're on the same page there. And so I've read your last question. Anything else, Brad? That was just a reminder that I guess your viewers will see prescreensnapshot.com. And if they want to go there, no charge for anything. They're just trying some feedback, right?
I'm sure they'll do that. So,
all right.
So going on to the next question, Brad, do you believe that the hiring process really differs from big organizations to small? And what, according to you, is really the future of recruitment?
I'll tell you, answer the second question last. The future, I hope, of recruitment is for all of us in the hiring world to use the basics. I don't know, I'm even a little hesitant to say it. They're top grading basics. It's what we're used to all the time. It's happened so much in the past decade, and you know that there is transparency in all sorts of things. You don't have to buy a car without knowing everything that was done in maintenance. You have ratings of restaurants. Some of them you don't trust a whole lot, but some you do. You know, if Zagat or Michelin and so forth. You have Angie's List, and that gets kind of close to hiring. Do you really want to hire a nanny without checking her out? What Angie's List does is say, well, here's someone gets some high ratings. Then, of course, you check them out. You use a mini top grading interview with them, and you ask them, candidates for the nanny job, to arrange for calls with people they've worked with in the past year. So they're very much related. We're accustomed to that transparency, except in hiring. Hiring hasn't improved significantly since Adam and Eve, except for top. So that is how I hope the whole world, and whether they call it top grade or not, I don't care. What I want to hear is for entrepreneurs. And we had a top grading workshop just 2 weeks ago, and we had a number from Africa, and they're working in companies that use top grading that where the CEO says we would not have succeeded without top grading. Love to hear that. Individual managers, hundreds of thousands of individual managers have had more successful careers, and for many of them, more successful lives, because instead of just having 25% A players, there's 75 or 80, or even higher percent A players. Makes life a whole lot more difficult. So you asked about the small versus large. It's here's another true confession, Nishka. All right. I had to be dragged into taking top grading down from the C-suite. I figure that's where the real action is. You get all A players at the top, it's going to be very successful. But a lot of the case studies at topgradingcasestudies.com, you know, it's throughout the whole organization. Why not have VPs using top grading and directors? Why not first level supervisors? Well, they're just going to hire, 100 people to work in a call center. Oh, when top grading is used at that level, it's much shorter. The interviews are shorter, okay? Reference checks are 5 minutes and so forth, but the turnover is much less. And the customer service ratings are significantly higher. Yeah, okay, so it is important there. How about kids right out of college? I thought, well, I haven't had any work experience, so top grading extrapolates from work experience into the future, and if they haven't had it, So clients said, you're wrong on that, Brad. We're accustomed to having 2/3 of our recent college graduates or MBAs gone within 2 years. We've cut that turnover in half. This is much better because young people have had internships and they've had summer jobs and they've had some other leadership experience and so forth. And so it's worth it. Even though it's not 85% high performers, that's all right. It's a whole lot better. So the methods are just universally applicable. So we don't just have workshops like for finance people or just for, well, I'll eat my words. A lot of times working with companies, the HR team wants to be trained in top grading first, because they become the trainers of others. But it all works out. So anyone who wants to try the pre-screen snapshot, will work for any jobs. If you get interested and want the fuller version of it, then you can look at some of those other case studies. But and they're all interesting, and I'd love to hear it. Love to hear it. Some guy, named Aaron Patzer, started a company called Mint.com. It was bought out by Intuit, but he said, I only have 40 employees, but 36 out of 40 were A players, and I used top. He came to a workshop. He used top grading. I think if it only been 35, we would have failed. Well, what was the outcome, Aaron? Yeah, the outcome. Well, I sold my company for $170 million. That's a nice outcome, right? So there are the big stories like that. The smaller ones are the supervisors, directors, VPs, just hiring managers who are frustrated. Every weekend, they're not relaxing as much as they would hope to, and it's good because they know some A players, some weak performers are likely screwing things up on the weekend. They're going to have those. It's a headache remedy is to have a team of almost all high performers. So they're the ones I guess I'm most interested in these days, right? Okay.
Right. That was a really enlightening response. And just coming to our last question and kind of wrapping this interview up, Brad, do you have any final sound bites you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yes, something I haven't mentioned yet would be I'm very compulsive. You can go to topgrading.com and see how to get in contact with us. But I'm going to do something. Maybe I'll regret later. I might have to change my name. I'll give you my personal email address. You have any questions about this stuff? You should. You start getting into it. I wonder about this or wonder about that. Email me at brad@topgrading.com. And I almost always get back that day, or certainly within a couple days. I hate to think that someone is not using those 3 steps, the truth motivator, the verification, more thorough interviews, because they had a question. Well, what about this? There are a lot of what abouts. I'm actually writing a book right now. I don't know if it's going to be an e-guide or a full book, but it just has to do with those 3 things and the concerns people have had, and if not articulated, then they wouldn't use those. One I've mentioned, it's hey, right now you have an awful lot of job boards using artificial intelligence, and they're finding people who aren't looking for jobs. Good. They're not necessarily finding high performers, but at least they're finding more people. And how could you contact someone and say, I want you to arrange calls with your boss? They're not even looking for a job. You came to them. And the caveat on that, and I mentioned it a couple of times, it's only when an offer is on the table. At that point, any A player, of course, is willing to say, sure, I'll be happy to arrange calls with my managers who, by the way, are going to say very nice things about me, right? All right. So there are answers to it. What if the company has you want the candidate to ask for the company that prohibits managers taking reference calls? Well, the wording is always business reference. Just call it a personal reference. That's problem solved. Or find someone who's no longer in that company. They were there when you worked there. Now they're somewhere else. They're not bound by any of those restrictions. So there are answers there. So brad@topgrading.com, and I'd be happy to get back to you.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much for that final remarks, Brad. I really appreciate it. And I had such a wonderful time interviewing you, and it was an absolute honor. So thanks a lot for just making the time and sharing your precious views with us.
You're very welcome. And you're a very good interviewer. You got me to admit all sorts of weaker points. Thank you very much.
Yes, and you have a safe and healthy time ahead of you. I'm really hoping to do a second lap of this sometime in the near future.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.